I also want to talk about, right before we finish up this main setting up of the scene. Actually, at first I'm going to put this back down to 100 because that'll probably be good enough. See, look how fast that was. 800,000 voxels. Setting up takes is a very important, a very good habit to get into. Again, production tip. I'm going to say production tip, I think, from now on, whenever I figured out something eventually that you're going to get for free right now. Work with takes as early as you can. Takes are collections of settings. So I'm going to make two takes here, LQ and HQ, low quality and high quality. And what takes do is when we're usually working, we're in the main take. And perhaps you've even noticed that up here before. There they are, HQ and LQ. When we're usually here, everything's available to us. We can change anything all the time. In fact, I'm going to put this take thing over here. There it is, and I'm going to kill it here. So when we're in LQ, once we're in anything but main, basically, we can't change any parameters anymore. What we're doing is we're inheriting all of the parameters that were set above it. So if you want to change something here, we're basically going to add overrides. Essentially, the best way to think of takes are a collection of overrides to specific parameters. So there's two ways of doing it. Once we're in LQ, you can say, I want the low quality settings to be, right click and hold, include in take. Let's say that will be 50. So now when we're in main, we'll make it even worse. We'll make it be like 20. And then in HQ, we'll make it be 100. And so now all we have to do is just switch around. LQ changes it to 50. HQ changes it to 100 once it finishes processing it. And this goes back down. And anything else that we need to do, if I change this to be some other way of computing the volume, let's say, and we'll get into that at a much later date, those things will still propagate down. So just by changing HQ, the metaball mode is still here, but the 100 is the override, and you can see the overrides are stored here, which is pretty nice. So you can see them, you can delete them or change them or copy the takes, and you can even have more takes inherit off of that. Like you could say this is LQ, but in this LQ version, it's going to inherit the number of voxels that I did, but I'm also going to have it do something else. So I'm going to say like LQ metaball. So now in this version is where the metaball thing is going to happen, and I'm going to have it be the regular ray intersect here. So now in LQ mode, we got 50, and in this, we still have the 50 because of what it inherited from, and now we have the metaball thing too. So this is a great way to keep all this stuff in mind, especially when it comes to rendering the, now we're going to want to take this back over here again. The rendering, in particular, when you get into number of pixel samples, also known as like anti-aliasing, that stuff is really what you want to store in the LQ HQ stuff. So I would say we click on the Mantra node and you go to rendering, and I would definitely say for LQ, sure, 3 and 3 is fine. But then for HQ, like let's say you wanted to render overnight, change this to maybe 6 and 6. So while you're working during the day, you want faster feedback, 3 and 3. And then when you're going to go to sleep and you want to do a long-ass render, HQ, good enough. And there you go. You can even have your Mantra nodes themselves always know to use that. So see render with take, I can say always render with HQ mode. And let's see what HQ mode looks like. So even though we're in main right now, working quickly in the viewport, like I only need like a coarse representation of the head in here, but I want to see it rendered properly. And there it goes. And remember that HQ in this case means the higher res volume and also the higher pixel sample on the render time, even though we were working in this mode and it said 3 and 3 here. So that's definitely a production worthy tip to know, is set up your takes early in all of your material settings, your render settings and all that stuff. Throw them into the HQ take, throw in whatever you need to do to have it render quickly, which we'll get into later. We'll put into the LQ mode. So there we go. That is our basic scene setup. And next chapter, we're going to get into the actual dynamic movement, setting up the actual simulation itself.